On the day of my husband's burial, my son Michael stood at the pulpit. His voice trembled, his eyes were moist, and he expressed his gratitude, but not to me. He mentioned another woman's name. He said that woman was our real family. In that moment, I felt as if I never existed at all. Every eye in the room shifted toward her, toward Sarah Jenkins. A slight glimmer of tears in her eyes, perfectly styled hair, an expensive outfit, and a confident expression, while I, the real wife, the mother, the partner of 40 years, sat quietly in a corner. As if I had never belonged to this family at all. Later, when the lawyer read the will, I learned that my husband had left his entire estate, the bank balance, the house, everything, to Sarah Jenkins. Not even a single dollar for me. Sarah stepped forward and hugged my son, and there was a sparkle of victory in her eyes. As if she had won it all, but then I pulled out the second will, the one Thomas had made just months before he died, and the room fell silent. Every smile disappeared. I had been married to Thomas for 40 years. I always believed that even if the love had faded, the bond still remained. I had given up my job, my career, my dreams, everything. He would often say, "You don't need to do anything, I'll take care of you." And like a fool, I thought that was love. On the day of the funeral, I wore his favorite gray coat and greeted the guests. It was cold, my hands were numb, but I kept smiling, hoping his last day would be one of dignity. He lived his entire life for appearances, and even on the day of his death, I maintained that illusion for him. When Michael stood at the pulpit and began thanking special people, I thought maybe he would say my name. That maybe, after 40 years, he would finally acknowledge his mother's sacrifices. But what he said next pierced me like a slow knife through the chest. "I want to give a special thanks to Miss Sarah Jenkins." My heart seemed to stop beating. That woman, who was always seen with my husband at his office and corporate events. Every time I mentioned her, Thomas would say, "She's just a trusted employee, don't suspect unnecessarily." And I stayed quiet. After the funeral, I returned home and couldn't sleep the entire night. I pulled out old albums. In some, we were young. In some, I was laughing. In some, Thomas looked at me with pride. But now it felt like maybe that look was meant for someone else. In one old picture, I found my old office ID. I was once a strong financial advisor. Then one day he said, "You stay home, I'll handle everything." And I bowed my head and agreed. Perhaps that is when I lost myself. The next morning at the lawyer's office, when the first will was read, I felt like I had been cut out of the story of my own life. Michael sat quietly, as if he already knew everything. When I asked, "You knew?" He replied casually, "Dad made his choices. Sarah supported him, you didn't." My son, my own blood, telling me that I no longer belonged in this family. Back home, I opened Thomas's closet. His shirts, his vests, all perfectly in place. But now even the fragrance in them smelled of betrayal. I found old documents, letters. Our vacation home in Nantucket, where I always felt like a guest, had been transferred to Sarah years ago. I was only being used, kept in the dark. When I spoke to our neighbor Evelyn, she calmly said, "Oh, Sarah came here with Thomas so many times." I thought she was a relative. They often went to symphonies and events together. My hands turned ice cold. Thomas always told me, "Those are men's events, you'd get bored." I realized I had been a guest in my own marriage, and Sarah had been the real guest of honor. Then I found a photograph with a note in the corner. "One day, our little family won't be incomplete anymore." And in the picture were Thomas, Sarah, and Michael. I was nowhere. I decided I would no longer stay in the dark. I contacted my former colleague Susan, an expert in financial fraud. I told her, "I suspect Thomas used company funds to buy properties for Sarah." Susan's face turned pale. "This isn't just betrayal," she said. "This is financial fraud." I replied firmly, "I want the truth, no matter how bitter it is." 2 days later, at Susan's house, I stared at the screen showing hidden transfers, money routed through a shell company to Sarah, during the very month I was bedridden after surgery. It felt like the walls inside me collapsed. 40 years of betrayal, and I mistook that betrayal for loyalty. That night, I lit a candle in the kitchen and played soft music. And for the first time, I imagined a different life, one where I wasn't just someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's servant, but a woman who would walk forward for herself, live for herself, and stand for herself.